I remember the sound of desperation in her voice. It was a few days after I'd been announced as the incoming CEO of Housing Australia, and my mobile phone had rung from an unknown number. On the other end of the phone was a lady in her 30s with 2 young children, working part-time and about to lose her home. I've tried everything. I don't know where else to turn. Can you help? We spoke for about 15 minutes. She told me a story of relationship breakdown, finding somewhere new to live, the loss of the family home, all the stresses and strains, re-establishing herself, juggling part-time work, full-time parenting and high housing costs. I've got to tell the kids tonight, we've got to move out. I've spoken to everyone, can you help? I explained a little bit more about the role of Housing Australia and that she'd tracked down online that I had something to do with housing and she thought we might be able to offer some assistance. I talked through what our role was. I did take her details and I committed to find an organisation that might be able to provide some immediate support, some counsel and maybe offer some advice about what steps to take next. Passed on her details later that day, but deep down I also knew that the likelihood of someone being able to support her to find a home in a week or a week and a half, at least a permanent home, somewhere that could be safe for her and her family, was pretty low. And that was a really poignant call to take just at a time where I was feeling pretty excited about stepping into a new role, but also really remembering what the purpose of Housing Australia is really about. And as Uncle Michael referenced, when you see someone sleeping rough, or when I see lines of people waiting for a rental inspection, or aspiring homeowners who are searching for a home and feel it's always just a little bit out of reach, I'm reminded of the real privilege and the responsibility that I have to work at Housing Australia along with my colleagues and the board to play our part in supporting more Australians to access affordable, safe and secure housing, including providing pathways to home ownership. So it's really my privilege to be here today to speak with you as our valued partners, and I want to really thank you for your time and acknowledge your effort in coming here or joining us online. I'm also really grateful to be joined by our chair and several members of our board, along with colleagues from Housing Australia that are here today. The rest are back doing the work that needs to get done, by the way. This afternoon, I'm going to speak for about 20 minutes. We'll have some time for questions and answers, and I'm going to articulate a few key messages. But the main theme, as the chair's already outlined, is that we're focused on how we can use all the tools at our disposal to support the delivery of more homes more quickly and pathways to home ownership so that more Australians can realise the great Australian dream. Specifically, I'm going to speak to you about the role of Housing Australia in supporting home ownership, our role in supporting the delivery of more housing, how we're looking to evolve the ways in which we're partnering and working with you, and what we would like from you as our partners. Now, some of this will be very familiar for some of you, in fact, for many of you in the room, many of you who I actually know, this will sound like I'm stating the obvious, but sometimes it's worth repeating what our role is and how we can work together to make a difference in the system. So Housing Australia is the independent national housing delivery agency. We work with the private sector, with community housing providers and all levels of government to facilitate and deliver programs that help more Australians to access social and affordable housing or to buy a home. We work very closely with other parts of the Commonwealth that have primary policy responsibility, and in particular, I want to acknowledge and thank our colleagues in Treasury, some of whom are here today, and other colleagues across government who provide support but also do very important work in housing policy. Housing Australia's role is to deliver on the objectives set by government through the Housing Australia Act and through the investment mandate. And we do this under 2 primary streams of work. Firstly, I'm going to talk a little bit about our work of supporting home ownership. It is and remains the great Australian dream. Every weekend around Australia, aspiring homeowners are lining up to inspect homes that they hope will become one of their own. We know that for many people, that step into home ownership has been an increasingly steep climb, and many are feeling that it is just out of reach. Housing Australia is fortunate to have been given tools by government to support people to own their own home through the delivery of the Home Guarantee Scheme, where we work with a panel of participating lenders to guarantee mortgages for home buyers with a lower deposit than the lender would typically require without that guarantee. There's a number of those lenders who are represented here today in the room, and I want to thank you for your ongoing support in the delivery of the scheme. Your partnership is really crucial to a program that's unlocking the door to home ownership. And together, since the scheme started in 2020, we've supported 184,000 people to achieve their home ownership dreams through this scheme. Last financial year, the Home Guarantee Scheme supported 58,000 home buyers, and this included approximately 1 in every 3 home buyers who purchased a home during the financial year. They're people like twin brothers Andrew and Zach, who were amongst the first home buyers to take advantage of the scheme's expanded eligibility criteria, which came into effect last year. It enabled any 2 borrowers to purchase together, and as a result, Andrew and Zach were able to realise their aspirations of home ownership. At 22 years old, working in logistics, they were able to get finance from Great Southern Bank to purchase a 3-bedroom townhouse and get their foot in the market. Now you can imagine what it'll mean for them to not only have the security and safety of owning their own home, but also the financial and opportunities that will provide later in life. Now they've got their foot onto the ladder of home ownership. So we're incredibly proud to be working with lenders to enable access to home ownership opportunities for more Australians. And there are a range of other considerations before government about ways in which home ownership initiatives, including the current scheme, can continue to evolve to support more Australians into ownership. Our second stream of work is supporting the delivery of more housing. Now, Housing Australia's got a really important role to get blood to the muscle of the housing delivery system in the form of various financing, investment and grant mechanisms. Now, I'm using this analogy very deliberately because whilst the capital that Housing Australia can deploy is crucial, in and of itself, we don't achieve anything unless it's put to work by partners who've got the capability to deliver homes, and in the case of social and affordable housing, those partners to operate those homes to support long-term intended outcomes from social and affordable housing. Our partners have got to bring together the land, construction, operational capability and other parts of the capital solution to deliver on those outcomes. So Housing Australia plays a role in this, but really you are the muscle in the partnership, so your role is crucial. The tools that we've got to get blood flowing to the muscle are the following. The Affordable Housing Bond Aggregator, which provides low-cost finance to registered community housing providers. We source debt from the wholesale capital debt markets and issue long-term social and sustainability bonds. We also access a line of credit provided by the Australian Government. To date, we've issued $2.8 billion in bonds that have been well supported by institutional investors, and we're able to use the proceeds of those bonds and the funds through the line of credit to provide loans to community housing providers. To date, the organisation's approved $4.1 billion of loans, which includes $876.8 million in funding last year, is supporting more than 2,400 social and affordable homes. Some of the other tools that we have, and we're getting into the acronym heavy part here, because we love a good acronym, as I'm rapidly finding out in government, everything's an acronym. The NIF, the National Housing Infrastructure Facility. There are multiple parts to this, but through the NIF Critical Infrastructure Facility, we finance infrastructure that unlocks new housing supply. Through the NIF Social and Affordable Housing Facility, we provide concessional loans and grants to directly support new social and affordable housing. And to date, we've approved a combined $930 million of funding commitments in these two programs. We anticipate the finalisation of the investment mandate for the $1 billion NIF Crisis and Transitional Fund. We anticipate that being finalised soon and look forward to that investment mandate being handed to us to give us the tool to start rolling that out. We also have a role providing capability grants to support the growing capability of the community housing sector as really key partners in a system that needs to step up and do more. So in taking stock of where Housing Australia is, we can reflect that since the organisation was formed in 2018, it's approved funding for 18,800 new and existing homes held by community housing providers. It's approved funding to unlock 11,700 homes through the NIF in its various forms. And those funds are currently supporting a combined 3,800 homes in construction. We do use these mechanisms to support our partners to deliver more homes, and when we get it right, we know it can have a profound impact on people's lives. I'll take you a moment and just tell you about Mary. So Mary's lived all her life in the same area. She raised 3 children in the region. She worked her life as an aged care nurse and she rented in the private market. However, when she retired, she found the pension was rapidly becoming insufficient to cover the cost of rising rents and cost of living. She faced having to move out of a community she'd been connected to her whole life. We know that renters face higher rates of poverty in retirement, and we can imagine how that then is compounded when people have to relocate out of places that they've known and communities they're connected to. Fortunately, Mary found community housing. Today, she's delighted to have a safe, affordable home in a new development managed by Housing First, who was supported by finance from Housing Australia. Mary says that the place is all brand spanking new. It's like living in a hotel. She's been able to maintain her connection to her community, to family, to friends, and she can now enjoy her retirement years with the safety of a home she can afford to maintain in a community that she's known her whole life. They're the sort of outcomes that we're working towards as we provide funding to our community housing partners. Now, of course, the other major funding tool we have is also one of the newest. It's the Housing Australia Future Fund facility and the National Housing Accord facility. I'm sure that most of you know the history of these two funds, but they have got a lot of press recently, so I'll cover them in a little detail. And for those waiting for me to give an update on round two, lower your expectations. Half the room's just switched off. So we all know that when the government was elected, they created the $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund. In fact, it was established in 2023 to create a secure, ongoing pipeline of funding for social and affordable housing and for crisis accommodation that can meet acute housing needs. Now, for the avoidance of doubt, we don't manage the fund, which is though invested in the stewardship of the Future Fund, but we are responsible for the housing outcomes to be supported by the proceeds of the fund. Now, returns from the fund are targeted to deliver 20,000 social and 10,000 affordable homes. In combination, the National Housing Accord brought together in 2022 all levels of government, investors and residential development and construction sector to unlock quality, affordable housing over the medium term. It set an aspirational target of 1.2 million homes being built over 5 years from mid-2024. And again, for the avoidance of doubt, Housing Australia is not responsible for the 1.2 million homes. There is some confusion on that sometimes, it's worth saying. But we are delighted to have responsibility for playing a really key role to deliver 10,000 new affordable homes as part of the Accord. In December last year, the government finalised the investment mandate for housing for both of those two facilities and handed those tools to Housing Australia. And with the thanks to a team that worked really hard through the December and January period with the support of the board, in January, Housing Australia released the first call for applications. Deliberately designed to set fairly broad parameters and seek a range of different solutions from the market, the first round received very positive interest, and Housing Australia received 50,000 applications for 50,000 potential social and affordable homes. Represented a range of different solutions of dwelling types, financing approaches across the whole of the country, dwelling size and typology. The assessment for that was conducted, and then on the 16th of September, Housing Australia announced an initial pipeline of 185 projects that can potentially deliver 13,700 social and affordable homes across the country under that first funding round. So we're now at a point where we're working with preferred applicants to finalise and enter into funding contracts in relation to preferred applications. Details of the specifics of who's been successful and where and what the project will deliver will be released in due course in line with the reporting requirements under our investment mandate. And I can say we're looking forward to being able to release some of those details very soon. Peter Anderson's in the back madly working on that. But we are really looking forward to hitting some of those first milestones and people being able to see what the HAF has the potential to unlock. I'm not going to go into significant detail about HAF round one because it is part of an ongoing procurement. But what I do want to say is that we are learning from the first round and we're beginning to incorporate that into our thinking about the different ways in which we work because, as the Chair outlined, we want to use all the tools at our disposal to deliver more homes more quickly. So it brings me to some reflections on how Housing Australia are looking to evolve our ways of working. Having been in the role now for just about 2 months and drawing on the experience and expertise of the board, team, stakeholders, and having been on the other side of the fence and have some observations of my own, I can make 2 observations about Housing Australia. Firstly, Housing Australia has supported some really fantastic housing outcomes since it was formed in 2018. And I want to acknowledge and thank the board, the team and partners, past and present, for all the work that was taken to deliver on those outcomes, and we acknowledge the significant impact that they've had. But my second observation is that there are also some aspects of the way we work that we must strive to improve so that we can maximise the efficiency of the way in which we flow funds and support our partners to enable you to deliver more housing outcomes more quickly. As the Chair outlined at the start, we are in the midst of a housing crisis. And to use an analogy, if you think of the housing crisis like a house, the house is on fire. And so if the house is on fire, you pick up the hose and you start the flow of water. And we've certainly done that. But what we've heard from stakeholders and what we've observed ourselves is that there are a few kinks in the hose. And those are impacting on the efficiency and the speed that enables us to get that flow of funds moving to you, because you are the muscle that can deliver. So whilst we're justifiably proud of what Housing Australia and our partners have achieved, we're embracing the feedback we're receiving about ways in which we can improve the timeliness, the clarity and partnering models to enable you to deliver more homes more quickly. The immediate priorities that I'm working on with the board and the team are firstly to ensure that we can close funding contracts for round one of the HAF and the NAF. And I thank all the partners that are rapidly working on that so that we can get those housing outcomes and get keys indoors as quickly as possible. We're looking at other commitments that are in our pipeline and working through how we can bring forward those and get funds to flow as quickly as possible. We're also giving thought to and preparing for the other objectives set by government, including the 5-year objective for 40,000 homes in total under the HAF and the National Housing Accord facility, but in a context of we are in a housing crisis. And we are seeking feedback that's going to help us to improve the efficiency in the ways that we work and how we support all of our partners. So to do this, we're reflecting on what are the capabilities that Housing Australia has to continue to build to be a really good partner, and how do we get other systems in place to support the efficiencies of the way in which we work and how we can support you to get those outcomes as quickly as possible. And in this context, your feedback is really crucial. Which brings me to what I'd like to ask of all of our partners and all of our stakeholders. Now, I start from the premise that everyone that's here today and everyone that's online and everyone we partner with shares a desire to improve housing outcomes for Australians. It's the common ground. We all want to do that. And as some of you will have heard the Minister talk about the fact that we can't keep talking about a housing crisis but keep acting like it's business as usual. So the opportunity for us is to use that shared common ground and say that everybody's got to play their part. The private sector's got to be enabled to play its part and deliver more. All levels of government have got significant contributions to make and levers to pull, and community housing providers must be supported to play their role in a growing system as well. So we need the following from you. Firstly, we need you to give us honest and constructive feedback. We're looking at how we improve our formal engagement with partners and with the industry bodies. We know that there's work to do and there are things that we can do that will improve the experience for everyone to get outcomes more quickly. I also want to extend, for example, to our panel lenders in the Home Guarantee Scheme. We want to continue to welcome feedback that we can use to inform government on the program design and enhancements that might be able to make sure that the scheme stays relevant in the market. We obviously want to hear feedback about ways in which our other tools that we use when we're creating support for community housing providers or the market to deliver more housing more quickly. You can give us feedback that we can feedback into the government process. I look forward to being able to share more with you in early 2025 about the formal mechanisms we're looking to use to formally engage with a range of stakeholders. But in the meantime, we certainly welcome feedback in the usual course of business. Secondly, the thing that we need you to do is to think about where best some of the advice and insights you have can be shared. Now, at Housing Australia, we are deeply interested in all manner of housing policy matters and how it impacts on our mandate. However, there are aspects of policy that are very much outside of our remit and best sit with Treasury. Felix will enjoy having everybody in the room pointed to him for all of your policy ideas and initiatives. We'll make him available at the back on his own. And also other parts of government. And I really want to make this point because what I don't want partners to do is have an expectation that Housing Australia can take up every policy idea or in fact is the right part of government to engage with for some of the policy objectives and feedback that you want to share. What we're going to start doing is providing more clarity about the areas of policy that we think you might best talk to other parts of government and provide greater clarity on who to connect with in those different parts of government so that the right message heard by the right people can lead to better outcomes overall. And finally, and perhaps most importantly from all of our partners, we need you to play your part and exercise your muscle to deliver on those outcomes. Because whether you're a bank, a financier, an investor, a developer, a builder, a community housing provider, another part of government, your role is absolutely crucial to delivery. And particularly in large-scale new programs like the HAF, we need every project to succeed to deliver housing outcomes as quickly as possible because the community is counting on us, because people are counting on us. We want to ensure that all the resources that we have are delivering the intended outcomes. And whilst Housing Australia can play its part and get funds to you or get a guarantee in place to enable you to offer something to the market you wouldn't otherwise be able to offer, we need you to play your part. We need you to be a champion for it, and we need you to be out there achieving those outcomes and talking to community about why this is necessary. So the purpose of today was to share just a little bit and try and clarify what Housing Australia is, what the role is that we can play as the independent National Housing Delivery Agency. We've talked about some of the ways that Housing Australia is open to evolving, and we welcome and embrace your feedback because we do need to improve, not because there's some things fundamentally wrong with Housing Australia, but because the scale of the challenge we're facing into calls all of us to continually strive to do better, to do more, and to do it as quickly as possible. And on that basis, we really welcome your feedback about timeliness, clarity, and partnering models. And I've talked about the real importance of partnership. Housing Australia relies on partnership to achieve the end outcome. Controversially, I'll say Housing Australia will never build a house. But Housing Australia can support the people that can and the people that can ensure those outcomes are there for the long term. So we want to be really good partners. We need your feedback. And what my key message today is that together with the board, I'm really focused on how we can use all the tools at our disposal to support you, to deliver more homes and pathways to home ownership as soon as possible. And I've really got that focus because my vision is that together we can shape a system that means in the future, a lady in her 30s with 2 young children working part-time, she can know that she, and in fact any Australian, can find a safe, affordable home of their own rather than having to make a desperate phone call to anyone they think might be able to help. To do that, we've got to work together, we've got to pull every lever, and everybody has got a part to play.